So today we thought we would do a little bit of education on where kind of our premium cuts come from. These three cuts here are our New York, our ribeye, and our filet. These are kind of the king of cuts here. The reason why we say that is because these cuts come from the most tender areas of our barbecue cow. We had to improvise, so we drew a second grade rendition of a cow on barbecue sauce on the big cutting board here to give you an idea of where these come from and the places that they come from. So these are kind of staged right on the body of our not to scale cow here, or steer. So the New York comes from right at the top of the loin here, the loin area on the back, on the outside, and it's further back on the loin is where the New York comes from. The ribeye comes from just in front of the shoulder, or just behind the shoulder rather, and it's cut off that top piece. And then the filet, the reason why I have it down here is because it is actually from inside the stomach area of the cow. So after they take all the guts out, on the inside, laying directly underneath the New York, is the tenderloin, which is a shorter piece of the loin that is pulled out, which is the most tender part. But you'll notice heavy marbling, heavily marbling, not so heavily marbling. These are much more marbled pieces because of this. I had a Wagyu bull for a few years, and we ran him over the top of some Simmental Angus cows that we had, and it produced just this lovely marbled beef. It's just exquisitely marbled beef. So we wanted to show you that the New York is on top, right here in this area of the loin is where it's cut from. The ribeye comes from further up, like right in this area, right behind that shoulder area. And then the tenderloin is where the filet mignon comes from. And it comes from up inside, directly underneath where that New York steak is. Then we have this here, and I threw this in because this is quickly becoming one of my favorite steaks, which is the Denver, which comes out of the inside of the shoulder. And you can also find this like right up where off a piece of chuck. If you get a chuck roast, that's also in there. But that Denver, a little bit tougher, but my God, great flavor, great marbling, just a great steak. I would say these are my four favorites. Probably my three favorites would be here, and here, and then the filet. I know the filet, everybody will say the filet is the king of steaks. For me, it's not. It just doesn't have as much flavor, and I'm a flavor guy. Super tender. It's a delicious piece. But I happen to like more marbling in my steaks. A couple different ways to cook these. I'm somewhat of a purist, so I like salt and pepper. I would do salt and pepper on these guys here, on these two steaks here, and put them down. You can do marinades on these. I actually take this Denver and put it into just a simple barbecue sauce over the counter. If you're familiar with Trader Joe's, they have a sriracha barbecue sauce. They just put that in. I'll also do that with the filet. Put it in, marinate it for a few hours, and then put it on the barbecue and just over high heat, say 450, 500 if you're on a pellet grill. Direct heat on a charcoal cooker, but not super hot. And you're going to cook these because they're a little thicker. You got a little more body to this. So you're going to want to cook this. You want to get a good sear and then kind of put it on some indirect heat to let that heat penetrate. So when you cut it, you get a nice rare to medium rare steak, if that's what you like. Obviously, if you're well done, I can't talk to that because I just don't cook those. As far as the ribeye and the New York, I'm going to go higher heat, more direct, and I'm going to sear these guys hard, and then I'm going to let them stand. I'd let all these stand for 10 minutes before I even cut them. Minimum of 10 minutes on standing. Let them stand and let everything do that. So part of the reason why we're standing these steaks is you've got all this heat on the outside. You want that heat to move through that. But when it's moving through that, all this marbling that you're seeing in all these steaks, down inside that steak, as that heat moves through, that's going to start to render and move through the muscle tissue, which is really going to give you that flavor. It's going to relax that cut from being shrunk up on there. As that fat renders, it's going to move through that tissue. And when you take that bite and you get all that juice and all that flavor, that's what's going on. You're getting that rendered fat within, or marbling, that rendered marbling within, that's coming out and giving you that great flavor. This is on the ribeye. if you were looking at the anatomy of this, this is what's known as the spinalis, or the ribeye cap. In my opinion, this is the most coveted piece of real estate on the cow, is this piece right here. It's the most tender, it's the most flavorful. Eye of the rib is excellent as well. The New York is just straight up, just what we refer to when we're hunting as the backstrap or the loin cut, right off the top. The tenderloin's on the inside, very tender, very delicious. Not as much marbling, but still just a great steak. And then of course the Denver comes from inside that shoulder area, and it's just super marbled. It's going to be a little bit tougher because it does come from there, but it's still a great piece of meat and just super flavorful. When you bite into this, you're not going to just get that buttery squish. There's going to be a little bit of resistance to that because there's a little bit more connective tissue in this cut, but yet it's still tender. So you get a little bit of firmness, a little bit of resistance, but then it goes through, and because of there's marbling in there, you're going to get a good flavor burst out of this that's real consistent. It's not going to be a boom like a ribeye is with that rendering, but it's just going to be a real consistent, delicious piece. So that's kind of the real estate on premium cuts that I personally like on a steer, and it gives you an idea on our Van Gogh rendition, barbecue rendition of what a cow looks like here on our cutting board. So we hope you enjoyed this, you get something out of us. Send us any tips for any videos you'd like to see. Go ahead and hit that, do me a favor and just hit that like button on the bottom and share this if you liked it. And we just hope to see you again. Happy grilling.